Welcome to Season 2 of the Get Out of Teaching podcast, presented by Larksong Enterprises. I'm your host, Elizabeth Diakos. On the show, we'll look at the who, what, where, why, when, and how of moving out of your education career and into a life you love. In this season, we'll meet ex-teachers who have taken their hobbies and passions from outside of education and created a new career for themselves. We'll talk to people who can support and inspire us as we make the transition and work on identifying the legacy we want to leave in the world. So come along for the ride as we get out of teaching. Episode 22. Hi everyone and welcome to the show. And on today's show, I'm very pleased to be interviewing Lyn McLennan from New Zealand. Thanks for coming on the show today, Lyn.
Oh, thank you,
Sorry, I've got so excited that you're here. Tell us your story, Lyn. What got you into teaching in the first place?
Well, I suppose I can start off if I tell you now, I'm 57 years old and I was pretty fortunate growing up in Oamaru, the town that I'm from. My mother was a school teacher and I'm one of those kids that, being the oldest in the family, I used to actually go down to my mum's school on a Sunday afternoon and do anything, whether it was the stamping of the books or the putting the math books on the tables, and I just loved being in the classroom. I loved the artwork around the room, and Mum was a pretty respected teacher. She was very musical, and so I just loved the respect that people had for her, and even her workbooks and everything. They were beautiful, and so she was the leading inspiration for me to become a teacher. I was the kind of kid that in my bedroom I would pretend there was a blackboard, that's how old I am, and have the teddies lined up and the dolls lined up, and I was the teacher, and I was saying yes, and I loved marking their books. But ironically, later on in life, when I really did have a classroom, marking books was one of my nightmares because it's such a huge job and there's so much marking to do that I just find that quite weird that as a child, that's what I loved, giving the wee stamps and the ticks and the big red crosses, so it was, I've never not wanted to be a teacher, never, when I was growing up. And it was just a progression that I went through high school, did pretty well. Got accepted into Otago Teachers College, which encouraged us to do the degree at the same time. So it was a 4-year course, and I'm pretty grateful for that now. At the time, that was a bit daunting. It was like, I just want to get out there and teach. I don't really need all the paperwork with the degree, but I'm glad I did that. That has taken me a few places. And so I did my 4 years. It was, loved being a student. Teachers College was fantastic down at Otago. Made some lifelong friends down there at the time, and then went to a bigger city, Christchurch, as my first year posting, and that was at Fendleton Primary School, which is a pretty well, still to this day, well-respected school. So I sort of fell on my feet, really. I had a marvellous principal, a marvellous team to work with in the junior classes as a year 2 teacher from a 2. What were we back in the standard 2? And I just loved it. But then everybody at my age, when we got to 25, was going overseas. So it was like, oh gosh, I've done 3 years teaching, but I really have to go now.
Oh, really? So they just all took off?
We did, and it was supposed to be the OE, the New Zealand OE, the overseas experience, and you would just stay for 2 years and then you'd come back. But I had a British passport because my dad's from Scotland, so I ended up staying a few more years than just the 2. And luckily for me, I knew I actually needed a break from teaching. I knew that the OE was all about your social life and finding out who am I kind of thing. So I got to London, I bought my VW van and a sewing machine. It was like, gosh, if I run out of money, at least I can sew curtains for somebody or make a dress or do something. I had always have had backup skills that it was like, if it all falls through, I've got plan B. And anyway, it was great. I didn't go into teaching. I actually worked in a photography shop. Went to Germany to the Oktoberfest, as you do, and was pretty impressed with the locals there, and met a guy who, when I returned to London, kept sending me faxes, which is so romantic for that era.
I hope you kept them, Lyn.
Actually, unfortunately, they will be somewhere. I do keep all those sorts of things. And so I ended up back in Germany and needed work. He suggested teaching at the international school, but I knew I wanted something different. So I ended up chefing for 5 years. And that became a big factor later on in my life, because it was a wonderful time for socializing with people, completely different from teaching. The hours were different, the pace was different, and the skill involved working at the Sheraton Hotel. We were doing, pretty amazing food work and actually working with skilled chefs. So I learned a lot from that. Anyway, after 5 years, you sort of move on, and I got the I had moved
to the guy. Was he German?
He was. I had a boyfriend, and he was German, and I could speak fluent German by then, but our plan was to go off overseas by then, to India. But as soon as we left Germany, it became so difficult. We no longer needed to speak German to each other, because English was spoken everywhere, and he wasn't very good at English, and trying to translate for him everything, we just were at each other's throats all the time. So our relationship dissolved, and he went off to India.
Wow. Okay.
I
almost feel sorry for him, and I don't even know his name.
And he was such a lovely guy. He really, really was. He was a lovely guy. But we were staying in Thailand at the time when this happened, and there were people in the bungalow next door to us, and they said, "Oh, you're a real teacher. You should come to Japan. We've been teaching there for 5 years, and it's our time to leave now. And we want to give this amazing job to an actual real teacher, not just a native speaker. Come to Japan." And I'm like, God, I know nothing about Japan. I really know nothing about Japan. I suppose so. Well, this was on the island of Koh Samui. There was not a typewriter, an English typewriter anywhere on the island, and I had to send a resume, a CV back with them. Right. They were leaving in 2 days, so I thought I'll have to go over to the mainland to find a typewriter. Finally, I went to one of the big hotels and asked to use their English typewriter. Quickly typed up a CV and sent it back with them, and got word. I stayed, I guess, another week, and they said, yes, come over for the interview. We're pretty sure you'll get the job. Just come over. So I did.
How did you sound like you were so seasoned traveler by then?
Take risks, all right. But I think I believe, I'm I guess gullible. What's the word? I believe what they were saying, and it turned out to be true. And it was an amazing job at one of Japan's leading from education sectors. It was Shukotoku School, which has kindergarten and primary school and university. It just has the whole network. And so I was at the primary school teaching English there, but I also in the evening did the Juku, which is the evening school, so from 3 o'clock till 9 o'clock at night, the kids are coming back to learn even more. And my English classes became quite renowned because I did music, and I did sewing with them, and I did all sorts of things, because it was like when you do things that's interesting for them. And that's how I found it that I had learnt German. I was in the kitchen and actually cooking at the time, and so I learnt really fast doing that. So was how I taught English in Japan, was by actually doing things, by singing songs and actually making origami birds. But it was fold this one, and So it was wonderful. Japan was completely fantastic. I also had another job working in the weekends as a children's entertainer with the Disney company. That was a fluke meeting of somebody. You know, if you're standing at McDonald's and you're waiting, getting a coffee or whatever it was, and you just start speaking to somebody, but they can tell your personality is bizarre or weird, and that's what it was. Oh, you're weird. You would love working for this company. Look, here's my card, and can you sing? You've got to come and see me. You've got to come and see me. I can offer you some great money for. And I'm thinking, oh God, this is too good to be true. But it really was true. We were like a theatre group going around Japan. Through song and through the follow-up books, this company sort of gave a program of how children and families could teach their children English. So Japanese people were absolutely desperate to learn English, no matter how they did it, and they paid big money to learn how to do that. And if their children were having fun, they learned it even faster.
Were you still working in the school while that was happening?
Yeah, so I actually had, it's a bit. So here's an example. One of the jobs at the Disney company was on a Friday night. We would get paid, it was $200 a night. $200 a night for about 4 hours singing on the phone. So you'd pick up a phone call and say, "Hi, it's Lyn here. How are you?" "Oh, I'm fine, thank you. I'm told, I'm Jemaya," or who it was. "Right, what page are you on, Yuki?" "And I'm on page 20. "Well, let's turn to page 20. It's the balloon song. Let's sing the balloon song together. Are you ready?" And so we were doing this scripted lesson on the phone for about 5 to 8 minutes with this child on the phone. And then the mother or father would come on the phone at the end and they'd say, "That was very good. Yuki is doing very well. We'll see you next week." I was getting paid $200 just for doing that. And we were sitting in an office with 10 other adults singing balloons, 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 balloons.
Oh my goodness, I've never heard anything like it.
It was, so, I mean, yes, that was one of the jobs, but it was the most, it just was not work.
What year was that, Lyn?
Oh, God, how old was I?
Approximately.
Well, I'm still friends with people that are still doing it. They still live in Japan and still work for that company. So,
Wow.
And I'm glad I'm not, because I mean, you do it for 5 years and it's like, then it's like, okay, you get to the plateau of, I'm here. I really can't get any better at any of this.
Yes.
Time for me to accept a new challenge,
Yeah.
Whereas they're just still doing the same thing. Okay, it might be a new show that they do each year for the big show that we were like the Wiggles. That's what we were like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Famous. So are you talking late 80s?
Yes. It must have been in Germany. I was there when the wall came down. So that was the 90s. Was that 89, 90? Gosh, I haven't even worked out the years. I can't even remember. But that company's still going, yeah. I would have, in Japan, I was 30. So that's 25 years ago. Yeah, 25 years ago.
Okay. So you were 30. So $200 a night, that was pretty good money.
Oh, I made ridiculous money. Because I had 6 jobs. So yeah, teaching at the school, they were very generous. Teaching at the Juku straight after school, it was just talking. I'm still friends with some of the adult students that I had. We would go to a coffee shop just to speak English. They were incredible times. They really were. I made a ridiculous amount of money that I ended up buying a Harley Davidson, is what my dream was. But I bought that. It only took me, somebody doesn't believe the story, but it was 4 months I saved for that.
Yeah.
And they said, even the president of the USA doesn't make that much money. And I said, I'm not lying. I had to not spend money for 4 months.
Like when I was 20, my rent it was $25 a week. If you were making $200 in one night,
I know. And it was insane money, a real lot of money. So my sister actually came over and stayed with me for 3 months as part of her OE, and I could actually afford to give her my jobs. I said, quickly learn these 60 songs before you come over. Here's the book, here's the tape, learn these songs. They won't even know that it's you or me. They just say, hi, it's Lyn here, and you just replace me, which she did. And so we sometimes still to this day just have a wee laugh and sing some of the songs that we had to sing from.
amazing.
Yeah, it really was amazing. And so in the background doing that sort of thing, that's what mucked me up when I came back to New Zealand, because when you're overseas, things like that happened, jobs like that happened. I met the person when I was in, as I say, McDonald's, buying a coffee. I mean, what if I'd chosen not to speak to him that day?
Yeah.
It was just so, I never had to plan anything. It always just happened.
I was listening to a podcast this morning and he said, luck is preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
So,
Preparation. Yeah.
well, I mean, in a way that you were prepared, you were there, you were in that place,
Yes.
done all this other stuff to get you to that moment, and then an opportunity arose and you took it.
Well,
It was
yes,
luck.
because it was luck, and actually zooming on ahead a wee bit. So that was Japan, but it is one of the things for me, being single and just ironically enough not wanting children of my own. It was like, okay, I've had 5 years. I can see I've got to the optimum level of everything that I'm doing. My student classes are going well. My teaching classes are going well. The Disney stuff is amazing, but I can't get any higher than that now. It will just be like that forever unless it starts to go down. So fearing that it would, suddenly start regressing,
Yes.
I knew it was time to go. And once my Harley Davidson actually got stolen in Japan. And that really, it was like what had happened to me as I was making so much money, you start getting very materialistic. And that's not me. That is so not me. And I suddenly realized it wasn't until a phone call to my parents later on, about a month later, when I realized the police, this Harley Davidson I'm never going to find it again. And I said, oh, well, my Harley's gone, and Dad said, thank God for that. What's a girl wanting a big Harley Davidson for? Oh, I couldn't be happier. And I'm going, I didn't want that response. You should be feeling all sorry for me. Actually, no, he was thrilled. He said they'd tried to get me to send the blooming bike back to my brother to say, we'll store it in the garage and, you can keep it as an investment, because they couldn't work out why I wanted to. Anyway, so I take that as a wee bit of, that was part of the life story too. Yes, I always wanted one all my life. I've had one and I still have got one. I've got the key and the leather jacket still. I just don't know where the bike is. Actually, I do know where the bike is. It was a scam that the Russians were doing. They'd come over and see your bike parked on the road. They'd have three people. One of them would be dressed up in leathers with his helmet under his arm, and they would stand there, so nobody would question the fact that Hiab was picking up the motorbike and putting it onto the back of a truck, and off they go, while I was on the phone, because it was my birthday and I was sort of talking to people, and came down and said, where did I park my bike? Yeah.
So it's in Russia somewhere.
Yeah, they dismantle them and they sell all the parts, and so yeah, and as people said, I just buy another one. But by that stage, it was like, no, you see, I've got to the top and things are good, but now here come the bad things. And I do believe there is a balance of good and bad sort of throughout life that challenges you. And so it was like, okay, no, time to move on. And I had.
Did you go back to New Zealand after that?
No, I did not. I actually went to Thailand because I had, by that stage, been going to back to Koh Samui. I actually had a lovely boyfriend in Thailand. He was quite a famous musician, and so I had become thought I would start up my own school in Thailand on Koh Samui, because what I was seeing happening was all the people from the mainland, Bangkok, and they'd all come to Koh Samui, and they'd get all the jobs because they were very good at English. They were very savvy at getting all the English speaking jobs, but the local people weren't. And there was a real, us being New Zealanders, we're not used to class distinction. It's like, I don't get that, and I don't believe in it. And it's just, these people can also be getting these jobs. So what is going on here? So I was going to solve it all. I was going to have all the market kids come to my school, and I was going to teach them English, and they would be really successful, and that was going to be my Mother Teresa gift to the world, you know. Anyway, I soon learned how corrupt Thailand is, and starting up a business there is, you sort of have, you actually, I hate to admit this, you have to do some of the corrupt things. So the taxes were going to be absolutely shocking. And I wasn't making that much money because I was gifting my time to a lot of the kids that I had as a preschool. So I had to change the name of my learning centre every 3 months so that it didn't ever get into the tax bracket of becoming a business. So just little things like that. And it was like, oh, this isn't right either. But anyway, one of the students that I had, actually two of the students that I had, their mother was going over to the mainland every day to learn to be a kindergarten teacher. And within, I ran it for a year. She came back after a year and offered to take over my business, and because she now had the qualifications, and I could see by then that was going to be so much easier, because me as a foreigner, too difficult. Thailand's really quite strict about businesses and things. So that was kind of satisfying in itself too, because what I started, still to this day, runs as an international, and it's an international learning centre now, for the preschool children. So that's pretty cool. It's much bigger than whatever it was when I started it, but that was pretty cool. So what I actually did was went to Bangkok and worked in the international schools, and wow, that was great. Anybody in the teaching business, if you're not enjoying teaching just now, either in Australia, New Zealand, or wherever you are, go overseas if you can, and especially if you've got family. Oh, well, mind you, we're all dealing with COVID now, but but I didn't have family, and so it was difficult for me to get a job at an international school, because they love foreign children coming into their schools. And of course, if you're a teacher with children, they definitely want you.
Yeah.
So so I ended up teaching at Harrow International School, which was just awesome days, awesome caliber of teachers that were there. Just I really missed those days. They were brilliant. You meet brilliant and inspiring teachers at international schools, because we all have to learn quickly. I had to learn the British curriculum very quickly, but they share, and they are supportive, and there's a caliber of exciting people that have taken the chance to go overseas and teach at an international school. And I loved it there. So once again, still friends with it. Some of them have come back to New Zealand, or wherever it is that they go. There were at Harrow School. There was a lot of English people.
So you've had this really broad experience of education in all different contexts. What finally got you to the point where you wanted to get out of teaching? Where were you when that happened?
So it's a bit unfortunate. I came back to New Zealand. I took a year off because my brother got cancer, and I was like, that was a big scary thing. And as the oldest daughter, I wanted to come back, and I felt as though I'd neglected my family, so I wanted to be there. So I actually stayed with my brother to help him with his journey with cancer. Unfortunately, unfortunately, he did not win his battle with cancer. And so I had no desire, after seeing what that did to my parents, I just could not return overseas. But I had been overseas for 15 years by then. So it was like the reality really hit. Family is important. And I stayed. So, and I just couldn't get back into it. So much had changed in New Zealand. I started off in Wellington. I went up to Masterton. I was with different year groups. I was with the intermediate levels, and I couldn't believe how disrespectful they were. And oh, I just already started to struggle. But then I got a lucky break and ended up working at an area school, Twizel Area School, as the cooking teacher,
Okay.
which was,
And you'd been a chef.
and I'd been a chef. Not only that, I was the year 7 teacher that did food and fabric for both NCEA level and the middle school students, but I was also the German teacher as well. So every aspect, it was like, oh, who would ever think that just because I had lived in Germany and can speak German now, and I had been in Germany and I have learned all the chefing, and that's, my skills were exactly what I needed to fulfill that role.
And you had a sewing machine in your VW all that time.
You see, and so all my passions were in that little tiny town, and people said, "Oh, how can you be in Munich and in Tokyo and in Bangkok and then suddenly go to Twizel? That just doesn't make sense." And I guess it really didn't. Oh, and I even bought a jet ski to replace the Harley Davidson. So it's like, oh, I'm in the dream. I had 2 dogs by then. It was like I'm staying in New Zealand, and so yeah, I really did enjoy that role. It was good, and I think I was thinking back and reflecting. So why was that satisfying for me? And it was because there was plenty of new things, and being at an area school, there weren't so many students, that it was, you were dealing with one-on-one, and they had the passion for the subjects that you were doing. It was, yeah, yeah, area schools are wonderful to teach in. They really are. The children seem more connected. They don't have so many problems. They are socially, I don't know, comfortable. They really are. They feel safe. They really feel safe. But then another.
When you were there, or approximately, you don't have to get too.
So that was 3 years ago. I was there for 7 years. Yeah.
Right.
Then my mother passed on, and my father was left in Oamaru by himself, and he took that hard. And I just thought, I've never actually stayed anywhere for 7 years. And I'm at that top of everything at the moment now. Everything's going so well. Look, I owe it to my father. I can do this. I will go back to Oamaru, and I applied for a job, and I got the first job that I applied for, teaching at the intermediate school. And I just thought everything was going to be great, because I went to that school. I went to Oamaru Intermediate School. It's like, oh my gosh, the full circle. Here we go. I've been around the world, and now I'm back here, and I'm at my old school, and I can remember this room. I was even in this room, but I did not cope. I absolutely did not cope. They had changed it to a modern learning environment. I think coming in, you'd like to think that if you came into a school as I don't even know what my story is like, just telling, yes, I've been around the world and I've been teaching in different environments. It was wonderful. That is intimidating to some people.
So you're intimidating to the other staff?
Yeah. And I was not welcomed very well by some of the staff. And when I went to the principal to try and sort of discuss my uncomfortableness and some situations that had happened, it was brushed aside, or I was, I can't remember. The network, I was new, and it wasn't accepted what I was saying, about a management teacher. So it was, yeah, it was an awkward time, because there was some staff disruptions also happening. A staff member who was working next to me got asked to leave, and so that was who I was leaning on to sort of buddy up with and show me what was happening. And of course, then I'm left alone, and I get a new teacher next to me, and they're saying, "Oh, what do you do?" And it's like, God, I wish I knew. We're all a bit, I don't really know. So I found uncomfortable. I had some incredibly challenging students. I was stabbed on the first day with a compass. Being a new teacher, I didn't know what was in their
like the protocol.
stationery, their stationery kits that they were given by the school, and I had no idea that they had been given compasses. And so this,
You expect to be stabbed anyway.
yeah, well, he didn't. I had never had an ADHD child before, and ODD, oppositional defiant disorder. So this, even though I hadn't, there were some red flag students in my classroom, and I thought I'd actually met him the week before, and the mother, and there were a few odd behaviours, but I had actually taken his photo that day for our wall display so that we could, put a wall display. But he didn't like me taking his photo, and so he came to grab the iPad off me, and of course I went to do this, so he went away and got his compass and came to stab me with the compass. And it was like he stabbed so hard. Luckily I dodged it. It went into the wall. The kids saw it, and it took two kids to actually pull it out of the wall. And I just went white as a ghost and thinking, what on earth has just happened? He later got expelled from the school, but it was just bizarre. And because I'm an experienced teacher, I had 5 behaviour students.
They stacked your grade.
Yeah,
Kids that were more
and
challenging.
I just, having worked in such lovely, international schools, you don't get that. And also at Twizel Area School, if there are any behaviour things, it's you're I don't know, their journey is recorded, and they know how to warn a teacher, or you're given some advice as to what to do. But so for the 3 years, look, honestly, I just the students were difficult. The staff were also cold, I guess. I wasn't used to the new ones that came in would come for 1 year and then leave, because that's like, I'm not staying here. And so, but I stayed because I just thought, oh gosh, I would never, it's not my attitude to give up. Things will change next year. We'll get new staff and it'll be fine. Wow. So with that, I guess stress was building up and building up. And that's when I stumbled across your site, because I could feel I was staying up all night. I was trying to make my lessons interesting. I was trying to learn about all the problem behaviors that I had. I was just a mess. I was just a mess trying to make my classroom work. And it was like, when I saw get out of teaching, it's like, yeah, that's how I feel right now. I want to get out of teaching. What's this chick going to tell me? And I watched for a little while, because it was like, I don't, is this a hoax? Are there other people out there that are wanting to get out of teaching? Is it going to make me buy something? What is this site? I didn't even know what it was.
You're 3,500 in the group now.
Yeah. So, but I'm grateful for it, because just seeing new people put up what I was going through, and as a 57-year-old, it was, and menopause. It was doing things to me that I didn't realize. I had no energy. I went to the doctor and asked her, I said, what's wrong? Why am I can't keep up. I'm chasing my tail. But the stories that came through on your site started to resonate with me. And it was like, see, I'm not the only one. And every time someone was like, see, yes, the government needs to listen. People need to hear. Teaching is so difficult now. It is just not rewarding. I loved it so much. I got so much out of it. How can it change so much? Really, how can it? But it has. And so that's why I had gone to the doctor, and the principal also advised that I take some sick leave because things were getting really, really big. I was not coping. And on the 12th of November, I had a heart attack. I was at home. I'd been at home for a month resting. So, but it's called SCAD, SCAD, spontaneous dissection. It means you've been had too high blood pressure and your capillaries and veins are getting shattered, like your nails. If you're in bad health, your nails start to split. And so what if
you're making cringe in horror. So when was that? What year was that?
last year. So I just celebrated one because that's also you join up. So I got flown by helicopter to the Dunedin hospital, having a heart attack. It's like, I just felt like indigestion. I didn't actually believe that I was having a heart attack, but it actually was. And then the fatigue really hit in because when you're not getting enough oxygen around your body because your heart is affected, you just can't do anything. And so the best I could do, the experts put me on to, instead of a local group, they realized, you'll probably go in there and want to rescue everybody. With my personality, they recognize what I would do, so they put me onto a website, the SCAD website, an Australian one actually. And so I'm a member of that now. It's SCAD, and where we can support each other. And once again, hear what has happened to other people. And there are teachers on there as well. It's like, I can't believe I'm so stressed out. I had a heart attack.
Yeah, no,
but it is.
A principal have a stroke at work and another one have a heart attack on the way home from work. So I totally believe it. So let's move to what's happening for you right now, because you've obviously left teaching. So did you leave after the heart attack? Like, did you actually resign then, or how did that pan out?
I got hold of my the union and asked them what I should do, because this was an extreme case. I believe my job was why I had a heart attack. And so yes, I said my doctor has told me to change my environment. That's the only way I'm going to survive, which means leaving teaching. And I said, but I'm so disappointed about that, and they said, up to you, but you'll have to work that out on your own. And if you're strong enough and in time, you can. But during the time that I had sitting at home and friends coming and visiting me, I realized, I'm not enjoying teaching. I don't have the job satisfaction. And gosh, I tell my students to follow your passion. I really tell my students, do what you are passionate about. And yes, so I was not fake about that. As earlier on, I really was a passionate teacher. I really had the passion, but I literally can say I no longer have the passion for teaching. And I cringe now thinking about the workload, thinking about what the teachers are putting up with in the classrooms and how unsupportive everything has become and the expectations. It's like, it just was not like that. We cannot fix the behaviour, the societal problems that are happening, but that's what everyone expects us to do. And those of us that care do try to. We take it on, and we shouldn't. But I did. So there was an opportunity. I'm looking through job situations vacant. I went out to the freezing works because I thought maybe I can be a freezing worker. That's big money.
What? Freezer?
Freezing works. It's where they process meat. They kill sheep, and land of New Zealand, land of meat and milk sort of thing. But it's quite good money and it's seasonal work. So but I thought, there'll be people there. That'll be interesting. But they didn't actually give me the job. So, and then I saw that there was a dog grooming salon for sale in my town in Oamaru. So I went to the guy that was selling it, and he showed me what they do, and he recognised my personality. I said, I don't know if I could be a dog groomer. He said, Lyn, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. I went up to Auckland. I went to a grooming course for a week. I came back and I took over this shop and look at my clientele now. And his business was absolutely thriving. but he did want a high price for it, a lot of money. So my brother is an accountant, and he said, "You're dreaming, mate. You're dreaming. You're not paying that." He said, "You don't even. That's just for goodwill. That price that he's quoted you. You don't get anything for that.
Yeah.
You just get his business, and then you have to carry on doing things." So it's like, oh. So, but I didn't care. To me, it was cheap. It was like, good. It'll be great with the dogs, and I've always loved hairdressing as well. So. I cut all my brother's hair and cut everybody's hair, so and cut my own dog's hair. So it was like, oh gosh, yeah. Then COVID happened. So I'd been to the solicitor with the owner of the business, with the contract, and my solicitor and his solicitor were looking at what each other's solicitors were sending to each other. COVID happened. We were 7 weeks locked down. And the last week, I got in touch with the owner and said, "Well, listen, I'll help you out." And he said, "Oh, sorry, Lyn, I've decided not to sell now that COVID's sort of there. I'm not going to sell my business." I'm like, "What? You could have told me earlier, or why not?" Oh my gosh. So, and it's like my brother said, "Don't worry about that. You just start up your own." And I thought, oh, no, I'm not into that. I don't want to copy her. He said, "You're not. How many? Go and do your research." And as it turns out, there are lots of dogs here. There are only 2 grooming shops, and we don't have a dog daycare in my hometown. So I found a great site at the railway station, which had closed down. A Chinese guy bought the whole railway station, and he's got a Chinese restaurant there, but it had all been started to become in a state of disrepair because he's only got time to do his kitchen. All the platform and everything was just becoming very disheveled and not looking good. So I said to him, "Listen, COVID's here. You'll need extra income now. I'll pay rent to you, and doggy daycare people will come and pick up their dogs. They'll pick up a Chinese takeaway on the way home, and you and I will help each other."
Yeah.
3 weeks it took me to convince him that that was a good idea. And the third week I went in there and he just gave me the key. I thought, yay. So I've set it up and I've got clients. I absolutely love it. I grin every day. I still pinch myself that it's actually working. It's a mix of, once again, everything that I've learned, and all the skills that I've learned around the world, I guess, because yeah, you have to know how to read people, which as a teacher, you do that quite well anyway. I love the dogs. They're absolutely gorgeous. I do my photography with the dogs, so that send a couple of shots each day to the client, to the owners, and they love that. So they flick it to somebody and then they bring their dog, and
Right.
so forth.
So the dogs are happy.
Yeah, they sure are. And looking at other sites and doing a bit of research as well, from other dog daycares, both in New Zealand and in other countries. And so I'm called Canine Station, and we're up and running, and I start work at 7 o'clock. Sometimes I don't finish till 9, but once again, I don't even feel as though I'm at work. I'm 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 playing with dogs. I'm talking to the elderly. I've got some special needs students that come in and make make some toys out of denim fabric and things, and they watch the dogs playing with their toy that they've created, and just so many gorgeous little pockets of society happen in a day, and I explode with happiness. I just love it.
That sounds so wonderful. So you need to get a special license or anything to set that up?
I did have to get consent from the council for the building because I'm in a historic building. The building that I'm in is over 100 years old, so I had to make sure that had all the facilities, the toilet, and but in the district that I am, there are no restrictions about how many dogs or what sort of dogs or anything like that. That will be coming soon to New Zealand, but at the moment it's pretty open, so anyone can actually start up a daycare at their home if they want to. Yeah, there are not restrictions for that. As long as you pay your tax, nobody seems to worry.
Sounds
So,
amazing.
Yeah, compared to America, and I think Australia is also pretty strict. It will come. I know it will come. It will have to come because, yeah, in every business there are restrictions and hygiene inspections and all that sort of thing that you'd like to think were there anyway. So, but having been in the food industry and teaching health and safety in the classroom, in a foods room, I know how to do all that anyway, so it's fine.
So tell me, if you encountered someone who was at that point where you felt where you were actually sick, or if they felt stuck and they couldn't imagine what else they might do instead, what advice would you give to someone in that position, Lyn?
And I've actually done this. There's been a teacher aide at the school that I was at, and she was not feeling very good, and just and it's like, go with your passion and all the tools that you have and transfer them to another role. And she is a wonderful counsellor. And now, finally, Jacinda, our wonderful Prime Minister, has started to realise, oh, yes, schools need more mental health services. And so this is what that teacher aide can go into and follow through with that. And all she needed was a little nudge to say, look, you can't lose anything. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. I'll just go back to what you're doing. But you'll feel it. You keep feeling it and just keep believing in yourself. So like even on the news last night here in New Zealand, they just had advice to people with COVID and the way things are. Perhaps don't be a property investor anymore. It's maybe not the best idea to be doing that. And an example that they used was this guy who's in Auckland, and he has bought a barber shop. He doesn't do hairdressing himself, but he's the manager of his barber shop instead of buying a property, and he's loving it. And so, and as I said, it doesn't cost me anything to set it up, and I will build everything up, and if it collapses, I won't have lost.
Yeah,
Much.
amazing.
Yeah.
So if someone wanted to avail themselves of doggy daycare, what's it called? Canine Station.
Yeah.
How would they find you?
I'm on Facebook. It's called. I've actually got advice. As a company, I'm K9 with the letter K and then a 9
Right.
station. But I've also you learn through social media that most people look in the dog world. If I live in Oamaru, I want to go Oamaru dogs, they'll put. And so then that's how mine will come up, Oamaru Canine Station. So,
Right.
yeah.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And
But,
so, Lyn, would you say that in this whole journey, do you have any regrets?
I was going to say that I didn't do it sooner, but I don't think that would have been possible. I think I needed the 3 years to be really sure that leaving teaching was the right time. I was really gutted in the beginning when I joined up to your site. Getting out of teaching, it was like, this is not right. This is what I thought I'd do for my whole life. I really did, and I'm from that generation where you do that thing for your life. But we're teaching kids that we already say at the meetings, now your children will be having 8 or 9 different jobs in their lifetime now. We actually say that to them.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's I've done it before and I loved it. So don't be scared of getting out of teaching. It's actually not so bad. And I really love the journey that I had. It's still part of me. And there are many traits in there. And some of the traits are good to let go of. I've actually got a boyfriend now. I'm not a bossy old school mom anymore. And I like that. It's like, gosh, I even swear now because it's like, oh, I don't even care anymore. As a teacher, it's like, oh no, you don't do that, and you don't do this, and you don't do that. And it's like,
So you're a bit freer.
I am, and that's actually good. And I think my friends have noticed that I am too. And they've there's nobody that said, I think you made the wrong choice. Nobody.
So Lyn, what's the legacy that you want to leave in the world?
My legacy, laughter. Be a person. Make sure people around you can laugh. So if the memory of me, perhaps, if that's what a legacy is it? Or is that what a legacy
could be? Yeah.
Is laughter is the best medicine. When you need medicine in it, and we all need medicine, laughter actually gets you through.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Final question to wrap this up. Favorite or meaningful song in your life?
It takes me through a lot of times, and it was the Annie Lennox one. I've been around the world and I can't find my baby, and that really was one. I was single. I've never married. I've been single all my life. And I don't know. It was like, yes, I went around the world and I couldn't find anybody. Perhaps I never will, but I've been around the world, and I'm glad I did that. I'm back in New Zealand, and perhaps this is the best place to be. But I'm still glad I went around the world.
You might have found your baby as it's
I may have. You just don't know. But yeah, if anybody else is out there and they are worried, I was worried. I was mad. I was quite angry that I was having to get out of teaching. And thanks to your website, Elizabeth, I really do thank you. I'm still a member of it, and I still watch people's stories, and I still celebrate people that are strong enough to find ways of yes, you get out of teaching, but that's still important to the next journey that you're going on to. So you actually needed that journey of being in teaching, and you don't actually have to be bitter like I thought I was. It's just, that's just the journey. So good luck to you all. Good luck to you all.
McLennan, thank you so much for coming on the Get Out of Teaching podcast today. You've been a real inspiration.
Oh, thank you. Good luck. Thank you. Lovely to talk to you, Elizabeth.
You've been listening to the Get Out of Teaching podcast, presented by Larksong Enterprises, with your host, Elizabeth Diakos. Do you know someone else who could benefit from hearing more stories of hope and transition from teachers all around the world? Please take a moment to share this and other episodes via your podcast app. Each share helps me reach listeners just like you who can benefit from this content. The Get Out of Teaching podcast is proud to be part of the Experts on Air podcast network. For show notes and other resources, please visit larksong.com.au/podcast.